Hello there folks, my name is Spooks and welcome back to another episode of Box Office Chat. This is the show where I break down the top 5 domestic box office results, see where each movie landed, and see how well each movie did, so let's get started. Number 5 was Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, making $5.5 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $158 million and a worldwide total of $394 million. Another fantastic weekend for the film, as once again it had the best holdout of any films released in the top 5, just falling 29%, and believe it or not folks, in its entire theatrical run, that is the biggest drop-off it has had, so that is definitely something to be proud of for, and given where it's at, it should have no problem surpassing both How to Train Your Dragon 3 and Sing 2's entire domestic totals by the end of this week. It is just barely off the cusp of surpassing the $160 million range, and as well as the fact that it's roughly $10 million away behind Black Adam's entire domestic run. Why do I bring this up? Well folks, Black Adam, believe it or not, is the 10th highest grossing film of the year domestically, and given how well this movie has done and how close it is to that total, I see no reason why this movie not only surpasses Black Adam, but enters the top 10 highest grossing films of 2022 domestically. I still think there's a bit of a journey for it to enter the top 10 worldwide, but still, this movie is still doing incredibly well. And another big thing about this movie's run right now is that it is just roughly $6 million away from surpassing the $400 million milestone worldwide, outstanding, becoming the second animated film from last year to surpass that milestone, obviously behind Minions: The Rise of Gru. But yeah, overall just another solid run for this film at the box office. We'll see how much further it can go from here, but it looks like the hype train for this film is not stopping anytime soon. Number 4 was 80 for Brady, making $5.8 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $24 million, and that total stays the same worldwide as it has yet to be released in any international countries. Gonna be honest here, I was not expecting this big of a drop-off for this movie. Now, don't get me wrong, this is not a catastrophic drop-off. It was able to last longer in the top 5 than Knock at the Cabin, and I'm sure the studio heads are happy about that, but given how well this movie has been doing on the daily numbers and how strong word of mouth is, I thought it would have had a much better than expected second weekend. But otherwise, yeah, this movie is still in the right direction. It's about to surpass its entire $28 million budget. And given how well it's been doing in the daily numbers, it's sure to surpass that very soon, maybe even by the time I put out this video. So congratulations, I guess. And I'm definitely sure that the film was hindered this weekend by the Super Bowl. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty sure most people would rather watch the Super Bowl than a movie about the Super Bowl during the weekend of the Super Bowl, but who knows, I'm the crazy one. But yeah, I still think this movie is going to continue to exceed expectations. I think it'll be able to bounce back from this, and I don't want to come off and act like this is a disaster, because it's not. It only dropped 54%, which is the moderate hold you would want to see for your film. It was just a lot bigger than I was expecting it to. So yeah, I think this movie is still probably going to bounce back from this. Word of mouth once again has been really helping this movie out for the past week or so. So yeah, while a bigger than expected drop off, still in the right direction for sure. Number 3 was the re-release of Titanic, making $6.7 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $666 million and a worldwide total of $2.2 billion. Won't go into too much detail here, as this is just a re-release of Titanic, pretty much just for the 25th anniversary, but the fact that it was able to jump all the way up to number 3 and even be stiff competition for the other James Cameron movie that we'll get to in a moment shows just how strong of a hold this movie has, how powerful of a film this is. People just love Titanic. It was one of the biggest films ever made. Actually, it was the biggest film of all time at a certain point, and it continues to be one of the biggest films ever made. And it really, it really resonated with people. Everyone remembers the characters, and of course the sinking ship, and the fact that it was once again able to do as well as it did for a re-release for a short period of time. I don't think this movie is lasting longer than a week, unless they decide to extend it, but again, who knows. Once again, really shows the power this movie has on people. A lot of people wanted to revisit this movie just in time for its anniversary in the new 4K 3D format it was released in. So yeah, good job, Titanic, for jumping back into the top 5, doing very well on your re-release. Not much more else to say here. Number 2 was Avatar: The Way of Water, making $7.2 million this weekend, adding to a domestic total of $647 million and a worldwide total of $2.2 billion. It truly was the weekend where James Cameron faced off against James Cameron, as while there was a pretty stiff battle between the two of these movies, it was Avatar who claimed victorious over Titanic, as the film was able to jump all the way back up to number 2 from the previous weekend. And folks, believe it or not, despite the re-release, this film is just roughly $1 million behind the entire worldwide gross of James Cameron's Titanic. And given that numerical statistic, this movie is certainly going to surpass it, at the very least, by the time this video comes out. So congratulations there, which would obviously make this the second biggest film James Cameron has ever made, obviously under Avatar. Again, not gonna get there by any means, but the fact that it got this close to Avatar's total, and let alone surpassing Titanic, is absolutely exceptional. Again, people are still going out to see it. People are still really liking it, even with a re-release of another beloved James Cameron film. It's just had this grip on audiences for quite some time. It will definitely be interesting to see how well it does this weekend, as it pretty much has its first major competition this weekend. Obviously, Megan was pretty stiff competition, but this weekend with another sci-fi blockbuster that we'll be discussing at the end of the video, it'll be interesting to see how this movie performs against that. But regardless, this movie has made all the money in the world pretty much, and even though this will, once again, we are in the point where it's definitely slowing down despite having incredible hold, it still, once again, is a force to be reckoned with at the box office. And finally, let's end the video off with the number 1 movie of the weekend, which was Magic Mike's Last Dance, opening with $8.3 million this weekend domestically and $18 million worldwide. So let's talk about the positives first. Obviously, this is a much better start off to the year from Warner Brothers than was House Party. That film straight up did not even crack the top 5 when it released. It was just a flat out bomb, whereas this one, at the very least, has already made about half of its $40 million budget worldwide. So if it holds well, if word of mouth is very strong with it, maybe there's a chance it will be able to, at the very least, make back its entire $40 million budget worldwide. Having said that, yeah, this is not the best opening you want to have. Something interesting I noticed was that, similar to House Party, this film was only released in a little over 1,000 theaters nationwide, which is really strange for, a movie in the Magic Mike franchise. This franchise has definitely a strong fan base, and this movie definitely could have had one of the better opening weekends for the start of the year. It had star power. The marketing was much better than that of House Party. I saw some buzz for it. It really could have been a decent opening, but I guess because this was originally supposed to be a streaming release, they couldn't get a wide release. I don't know. I'm just making assumptions here. Point is, this is not the best opening. Hopefully, once again, word of mouth can help carry it to that somewhat sort of a success. But yeah, this movie needs all the help it can get right now. And those were your top 5 domestic box office results for this weekend, but we're not quite done yet as we've got another week ahead of us and new movies hitting theaters. And this weekend we have one new major wide release. I do know that there's apparently a new Liam Neeson film coming out in the middle of the week, I believe, on Wednesday. And given the lack of buzz or marketing I have seen for the film, you can probably tell how well I think it's going to do. So let's move on to the other new wide release, which is Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. The newest entry in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, as well as the beginning of Phase 5 for said cinematic universe, as well as the introduction of Kang, and, a sequel to the Ant-Man franchise, pretty much. Now, obviously, given those factors, I do believe we are going to see our first major, big blockbuster opening of the year. Sorry, Megan, you opened well, but your opening's gonna look poor compared to this. I'm sorry. But yeah, there's a lot of factors benefiting this film. Obviously, the MCU incorporation, the fact that it's the introduction to so many things pretty much, and the MCU is still thriving, and how much they've been hyping it up. The marketing has been fantastic. The buzz is really strong. Definitely going to see a big opening. However, I don't believe this will be something like Doctor Strange or Black Panther or even, honestly, Thor: Love and Thunder, given that it is an Ant-Man film. Those films typically came under the big heights of the MCU. If I remember correctly, the first Ant-Man opened to 57 million domestically, and the second one opened to 75 million, which I guess, for those movies and their budgets, not too bad, and they were able to leg out and make a ton of money. But compared to other MCU films, that was very lackluster. And while I do believe this will be $100 million opening, it's not going to go leaps and bounds against that. Again, not gonna come close to Doctor Strange or Black Panther or even Thor. So I do believe we are going to see a very solid opening, but it's not going to be of the same heights as the other big $100 million openings we've seen before. So yeah, I'm expecting something great here. Don't get me wrong, easily the biggest opening weekend of the year so far for sure, but nothing like super big, if you know what I mean. But we'll see how well this movie will truly do, as well as the rest of the movies that landed the top 5 on the next Box Office Chat. And that's going to do it for this week's episode of Box Office Chat. What did you all think of the results? Were you satisfied, unsatisfied? Comment down below and let me know. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you like this channel, hit the subscribe button. Follow me on all the social media links right there. And until next time, everyone, stay sharp.